few students, that kind of thing. And then I didn't hear anything from them until May 8th, not a word.
Huh.
Dr. Saffel called me up and he says, John, and I said, yeah. He says, Dave Saffel from Ohio Northern. I said, oh yeah, I thought you guys weren't interested. And I said, well, you're going to get a call from the dean tomorrow offering you the job. And I said, what took you so long? And I said, I already have a one-year job lined up. And I said, well, we had to talk about it. It turned out that I guess I was one of two finalists, and they had a big fight about it in the department. It took them a long time, but I accepted it. I went to see Standish Meacham. He was the chair of the department down there at UT Austin. I said, Standish, I got an offer. He says, is it a tenure track? And I said, yeah. And he said, take it, tenure track. He said, we'd offer you another year here at Texas. He said, we like your work, but all we can offer you is a one-year job. And he said, tenure track jobs are not to be disdained.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I recommend that you take the job. And I said, okay, and I did.
So tell me a little bit about the department when you first arrived, like who were your colleagues?
My colleagues in history were Bob Davis, who did American history and World Regional Geography. Dr. Loughman came in the same year as I did to do the modern European. And the other American historian, it was Ellen Wilson, was the other American historian. And then on the political science side, there was Dave Saffel and Kitty Hammond and Andy Loughman. And that was the department. There were 7 members.
What was the name of the department then?
History and political science.
No criminal justice?
It wasn't in the name. Oh yeah, Dr. Scott was in the department. She came a year before me. So there were 4 political scientists. She was a political scientist who specialized in criminal justice. So the political scientists were Dave Saffel, Kitty Hammond, Andy Loughman, and Joanne Scott, who had started the criminal justice program the year before in 1987. But we didn't add the name criminal justice to the name of the department until, I don't know, late 90s, something like that.
What courses did you teach then?
I taught Western civilization and ancient world, medieval Europe, Renaissance and Reformation, military and society, history of law, contemporary Latin America. They'd put that on me because I'd been in Texas and they figured that was close enough. I had to call down to my friends in Texas and say, well, what do I do? And they said, well, use this book and you'll read that book. And I went ahead and taught that. What else did I teach? Those were my bread and butter courses.
You didn't teach historiography?
Oh yeah, from the start. I taught historiography, although the students insisted on calling it historiography. I thought, no, I had to teach them how to pronounce it. Historiography, they really wanted to dump that on me because nobody wanted to teach it, but I always liked it. Yeah, I liked it from the start. I like it now. I'm going to like it next spring when I teach it for the last time. Yeah, no, it's a job. It's a course I really enjoy. I really enjoyed teaching Western Civ, which was a big requirement. The students in the Getty College and in the Business College had to take both halves of Western Civ, and the pharmacy students had to take one half. And so I was teaching 35 or 40 students per section.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I always liked it. I always enjoyed teaching students who did not want to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. My attitude was, well, they just don't know. They've never had history with me. And, well, never taught it the same way twice. I always changed the course up every time I taught it. I taught both the first half and the second half. Yeah, it was fun.
How has your course offerings changed over the years?
Basically, the courses haven't changed. I've taught a few other courses, like I taught history of Mexico, sort of an offshoot of contemporary Latin America. I taught a couple of courses three courses for the athletes who were going overseas, a contemporary Ireland, contemporary Britain, and contemporary Italy. And I taught an honors course on the Great Witch Hunt of the early modern period, and complete with a weekend seminar down at the Nature Center on the Salem Witch Hunt.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was sort of like a frosting on the cake.
Yeah. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. I taught. I think that's the only honors seminar I taught. I taught this Trex course, Myth as Reality. I really liked that one. And I don't know, it'd be easier to do this if I had my list up, but those are the ones I remember. I did Roman history, as a freestanding as opposed to ancient history. I like Roman history a lot. Well, that's about it.
Have the students...
I taught we had an English history sequence, and I taught that. Medieval England, Tudor Stuart England, and modern Great Britain. Yeah, I taught that too. But I got so that nobody wanted to take it anymore. I had pretty good enrollments in it at first. It was a requirement for English majors when I started.
Really?
Yeah. Also, I taught World Civ. The education department says, well, will you teach World Civ? And I said, yeah, okay. Because I taught it once when I was
I had you for World Civ.
In the University of Nebraska. I don't particularly care for it because I don't know the rest of the world all that well, but I'm okay, I guess. And you'd be a better judge of that than I would. But that course never really took off. There never were many enrollments in that. So I just went back to Western Civ.
Yeah.
Dr. Albrecht is taking the World Civ now that she's in the department.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. She's doing World Civ Part 2 in the spring. I don't know if she'll ever do Part 1. We'll see, huh?
Yeah, I had you for 1 and then Vermilion for 2.
Well, Adam, I don't know. He's much more methodical than I am. Yeah, he's systematic, thorough.
Yeah.
I'm a bit more discursive, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
Have the students changed over the course of your time being here?
The socioeconomic profile of the students has changed. We had a lot more poor students.
Really?
We had a lot more rural and small town students. We had a lot more students from the Cleveland suburbs than we do now. We get a boatload of students that are like from Putnam County or Auglaize County or Van Wert County or something like that, or Wyandotte County. These are the surrounding Seneca County, Wood County, like this. The counties around us, we get a lot of students, especially students who wanted to be high school teachers and coach. They'd come here. Back when we started, a student who wanted to teach in high school took a history major and then did certification courses. It became a major, a social studies major, and they changed the name to licensure around the year 2000. So there was a whole package. But there were a lot of students who came here to do that because they wanted to go back and teach history and coach basketball or something like that. And we had a lot of students like that. There are a lot fewer of them now. We had a lot of students who wanted to do history for its own sake. And when Mr. Shuck first got here to teach a course, he taught part-time for us for a while. He taught those museum courses. He taught museum courses while he was still director of the Allen County Museum, but then when he retired from there, we put him on study over here. And he was 3/4 instructor and 1/4 university archivist. And then we had students who wanted to do museum. We had a lot of museum graduates. One of the earliest ones was a guy named Jody Blankenship. He graduated in 1999, something like that. He was a social studies student, and he got himself licensure, but he went over to do a internship over at the Allen County Museum. And he got his hands on those artifacts, and he says, ooh, they gave him sort of an electric thrill.
Yeah.
And he said, this is what I want to do. So even though he finished up in history with certification, which is what they were doing, I think that's the last year that they did that, he went straight into museum work, and he worked principally for the Ohio Historical Society on soft money for a while. And then he got a job at the Kentucky Historical Society as some sort of assistant director. And now he is the director of the Connecticut Historical Society.
Wow.
Yeah. He's something like the 7th director in its history.
Dang.
Yeah, yeah. Or is it the 5th director? I mean, they stay on for 25, 30, 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And but he got into the Cooperstown Institute, which is the #2 museum studies graduate program in the United States after a winter tour at University of Delaware, and #1 in 19th century American museum studies. So, but he got in because he had the certification. They were starting. They were pivoting toward museum education, and he came. Well, he was really bright. Of course, he's the sort of kid we used to get. He was from Toledo. His parents had a business plowing snow in the wintertime and mowing lawns in the summertime. You know, that kind of hard catch-as-catch-can work, where if you have a snowy winter, you get fat, and if you don't have any snow, everybody goes hungry. He used to go home. He used to go home on breaks and plow snow from, well, whenever the snow started falling until he fell asleep at the wheel. Jody was a hard worker, but really bright. We had a lot of those. They were hard-working, bright, but they came from, modest means. You know, the last one I could think of that really fit that description was Autumn Calican. She came from dirt poor circumstances in Pittsburgh or thereabouts, and God, is she smart. Did a great historiography paper for me. It's no better than yours. Might have been a little bit better written, but you're coming along. You're a better writer than you were.
True, thank you.
You know, I mean, Jody wasn't much of a writer when he started, but he got really good. Jared Hardesty wasn't much of a writer when he started, but now he's publishing books with major university presses. But, you know, you can learn. And we used to teach people that. But she went to graduate school at GW in museum, and now she's done, and she's working for, I don't know, Library of Congress or something like that.
Wow.
We used to have people, a lot of people coming here to do that. I don't know why it dried up. There's still people going to school. Hell, they've got like 45 or 50 history majors up at Heidelberg. They've only got 2 historians. Where are our majors?
Yeah.
Yeah, where are they? What's going on here?
Good question.
That's my question. But at any rate, yeah, next question.
The department and the university was running relatively smoothly before the economic downturn of 2008. How have things changed since then?
Well, everything's just gotten tight. Plus, since Dr. DiBiasio got here, we've been doing triage. You know, some departments get more and some get less. Some programs get a lot of attention. Some programs get less attention. It used to be there was enough money and to distribute the wealth pretty evenly across the university, but it's not distributed as evenly now as it once was. Not nearly as evenly. We're usually at the end of the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How have the majors that you teach, how have they changed over the years?
Well, they're just fewer. In terms of quality and diligence, there's always been a range. People who are smarter, people who work hard, work harder or work less hard. Some who are really inventive, some that come in unprepared, some come in superbly prepared, they're ready to go. What was it? Blake Birchmeyer. He really had a hard time, but he just graduated from law school and became a clerk for for some sort of appeals court judge. I mean, he learned how to read and write. He's always bright, but we were really good at teaching students the skills they needed to get to the next step. Especially me, I teach more than anything. I teach writing skills, researching and writing skills, and it was always my view that you could bring somebody in here with a 19 or 20 or 21 ACT, and we get you through. We get you through the other end, but we just don't see those students as much as we used to. And we don't see as many of the high-end students either. You know, during the big economic contraction that took place in 2008, 2009, 2010, like that, students who had money to go to school could trade up because the high-end schools were hurting too. So instead of going here, they might go to Denison. Instead of going here, they might go to, well, I don't know, Carnegie Mellon or something like that, or to Wash U in St. Louis. You know, it's sort of a click up from us, maybe a couple clicks up from us. They could, and then the ones who couldn't afford us anymore, they traded down, and they went to state schools and community colleges. So we got caught in that kind of, the top and the bottom pulled away from us, and we were stuck there in the middle. A kind of medium-priced private school that did not have the sort of reputation to hold on to the students that we otherwise would have gotten. There was a time when there were a fair number of students, both in the country around here and in the Cleveland suburbs, where Ohio Northern was their first choice. It was their dream school. I don't know if Ohio Northern's anybody's dream school now, maybe.
Yeah.
I haven't run into anybody recently. Oh, God, we had some good students. I've had students in historiography whose papers could have been published right on the spot, as is. A woman named Carol Wilson, she decided she wanted to be a museum curator. I said, Carol, we could have gotten her in any graduate program in the country. The Ivies, and along with the Ivy equivalents, you know, like Duke or Chicago or Stanford or something like that. We could have, or the big state schools like Berkeley or Michigan, or, I don't know, Indiana, or, you know, big dogs. We could have put her anywhere with money. She said, no, I think I want to be a museum curator. I said, okay. So she went over to Indiana University program in museum over, which is at their Indianapolis campus. Now she works for the Smithsonian. When she went internship between her junior and senior year at the North Dakota Historical Society, they offered to put her on full time on the spot. She said, well, I'm not finished. They said, you don't need to finish. You know, we had students like that once. We also had students who were down here, and they've ended up, they go out and they're really good. They became good students, and they've gone out and taught in high schools, and also going into businesses, and they've gone into law school, and flourished. It's just I think it's just quantitative. We just don't get as many students, so we don't get the range of students we had before.
Have you initiated any new programs or courses?
Oh, yeah, sure. I've done a lot of new courses. Of course, all the courses were new for me. I didn't teach any courses except for World Civ and Medieval Europe. I taught those before I came here. I invented the history honors, the social studies honor society, but that never really went very far. Yeah. It kind of stalled out. It's just local. It's like a local fraternity or something like that. And I don't know. No, I haven't done more than that. I just devised a lot of new courses.
Do you prefer, or did you prefer teaching under the quarter system, or do you like semesters better?
Semesters much more. Quarters are just like... Did you ever run track?
No.
No.
God, no.
Did you play any kind of sport?
I play softball.
Softball, that's right, you do, don't you? Now, in track, you go around the curve and then there's a straightaway. You sort of get and sort of stretch out, and you go into a curve. Being on quarters was like running a race with no straightaways. It was all on the curve. It was a kind of pressure cooker atmosphere. And I didn't like, by the time my students knew me and I knew my students, by the time I knew their moves and they knew my moves, they were gone.
Yeah.
Gone. And they say, oh, well, you'll get tired of your students by the end of the semester. No. Once I get to know my students, it takes me a while. I'm not very good at memorizing names. I'm about 5, 6, 7 weeks into the semester. Well, then I really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
All the way to the end. It's like, my advisor said, sometimes teaching a course is like pulling teeth, and other times it's like a jam session. Everybody's working. He was talking about seminars. But by the time I get to midterm, I'm jamming. And at least unless I'm sick or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas by the time we got to, we're in this, coming up on this the 8th week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We were going into finals in 2 more weeks. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
I taught that way for a long time. Till 2011, something like that. I was here 23 years. Hated it.
Wow. What role did the department have in general education when you arrived?
Oh, we taught a lot of history and we taught a lot of politics. The history was, Western Civ was required for arts and sciences students and business students, and like half of the sequence for pharmacy students. And then we pick up a little bit of engineering for social science requirement.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of students took political science courses as a social science course. It was, depending on your degree, you had to do 1 or 2 social science courses. And we had a lot of students who took political science, or the one geography course we had, which was human geography. It's kind of like world regional geography, only a little different. Anyway, yeah, we were awash in general education students, but one of the bad things that happened when we switched to semesters is that the science departments in particular saw it as an opportunity to chop down the number of general education classes that their students took, and we lost our required courses, especially in history. There's some students. For the first time in a long time, I have a business student. I used to have lots of business students, and I liked them. Every student, every college brought different kinds of students to the mix, and it was great having that kind of variety. But now we have to compete for students in a way that we didn't have to before, in the way that other departments don't have to either. I mean, English has its English composition course, and philosophy and religion have ethics, and everybody, biology may not have a lot of general education courses, but they teach a lot of pharmacy students. And chemistry teaches a lot of engineering students and pharmacy students and so forth. They've got I guess what you might call a ballast that keeps the ship upright, We don't have ballast anymore. We're sort of doing like this, just trying to figure out what will students take next semester. What can we offer that'll lure them in.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder. Plus, we don't have many majors, and so majors can act as ballast too, especially if you got enough. But we just don't have a lot of majors now.
Should one take a course from the L's?
Sure, why not? None of us were as hard as they said. They didn't like me because I made them right. They didn't like Mike because he was a bear for detail. And they didn't like Andy, Donnie, because they claimed that they couldn't understand him when he talked. He had this tiny, little, almost unnoticeable Hungarian accent. They used it as
I was say I talked to him earlier today, or we interviewed him earlier, and I had no problem.
Yeah, well, they used it as a pretext not to justify not being able to do well in his course, and all three of us, as far as our grades go, we kind of fall right in the middle of the average.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a hard grader. I'm not a soft grader. Neither is Mike. His grading is not that hard. And Andy was always kind of there. You know, they used to publish these numbers, what the college average is, what the department average is, what the university, blah, blah, blah. And I fell in the range, so did Mike. But none of us were exactly easy. Yeah, of course you do. I had students who said, well, I didn't want to take it. I had to because it fit my schedule, but I'm really glad I did. I think, well, the unsolicited testimony was always best.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, that's the sort of thing. You know, when I came here, the food service was Marriott. And the food service before them was a company called Saga. But the students would always talk about Saga, right? When they were should have been talking about Marriott. Then Marriott was displaced by Sodexo. There were students who were still talking about Saga even when they got to Sodexo. There's this sort of cultural memory among students that lasts far longer than their tenure at Northern. So they're still remembering these L's even after they don't even know who the L's were or why they had trouble with the L's. Students do that in the same way that they always complain about parking and food. You know?
Yeah.
It's just, so I just go shrug.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm harder now or less hard. I don't know if my grades are better or worse. I don't pay much attention to it.
Yeah.
I just, teach who's in front of me and grade what I'm looking at.
Have expectations of faculty change over the years, so like for tenure or promotions?
Oh, you have to be more active as a scholar now to get tenure than when I first got here. My production, my scholarly production is enough to get me tenure and get promoted to associate professor. I don't know if my production now would get me promoted to professor, but it was enough when I was there, when I came up for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose if I had to, I would have published more. But it's hard to publish. We teach 4 courses per semester. Sometimes there'll be 4 preparations, so I'm preparing 4 separate courses. And but yeah, they've made it plain that they want more scholarly productivity, more professional activity, more service than before. I think it's harder to get tenure and to get a promotion now than it was when I went through. I think I'd be competitive.
Yeah.
I think I would get these things, but it wouldn't. I didn't even. They have these great big fat folders now. My promotion folder was 28 pages, and now they're like this, 400 or 500 pages. And my tenure file was something like 36 pages, something like that, 38. I had to fatten it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I had more to talk about, that kind of thing.